Okay, hi guys, welcome back to the Audio Levels channel. Welcome back to another review, and today we are taking a look at the Thieaudio V16 Divinity. And before I do that, I want to welcome you all back to the channel. It's been a couple of months and you're probably wanting to know where I've been. So no, I didn't die. Yes, I did catch COVID, and COVID took me out for almost a month, 2 weeks in bed, plus a lingering residual cough afterwards. And then after that, I finally managed to go home and visit my family for the first time in 3 years. And I know a lot of people have been have been following whether or not I can get home to see my family, because I've been trying to do it for about a year. And every time I seem to book up, the travel restrictions changed. Well, I finally got back to the UK, had a great time, and now I'm back in the studio doing these videos, playing catch up. So this week we've got the Acme Audio DAP, or DAC. And we have the Shangling Audio ME800, that's coming out this week. We're also going to do another big earphone roundup, and I'm going to be talking about my custom IEMs and why I don't like them and wouldn't advise anybody to buy them unless you're a musician. So that's all videos coming up. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also in the future, I have a lot of new camera equipment, microphone equipment, so the video styles are going to change, and I'm going to try and condense the format down to about 10 minutes. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't think you all need to be watching a 20-30 minute rambling audio review. I'm kind of sick of that myself, and I'm kind of sick of doing that myself. It's going to be more effort for me to edit it down and get different sorts of shots and angles and stuff like that. But I think that's going to give you a better look, and it's going to waste less of your time, or you can watch more of my videos if they're in a smaller chunky format. I'm also going to maybe look at cross-posting to another platform with a 60 or 100-second quick review that you can just check out what's good, what's not, and then you can go and watch the full review. So anyway, Thieaudio V16 Divinity. This is a bit of a beast of an earphone. This is 16 drivers in each side, a combination of Knowles and Sonian drivers. That's right, 16, so there's 32 drivers total in here, and these cost $1,500. And let's talk about that pricing, because Thieaudio aren't necessarily saying that this is their flagship earphone. It's just the most expensive earphone in their lineup. And having spoken to Thieaudio in the past, they've talked about that, yeah, they kind of get the price from the amount of effort and work that they calculate that goes into it, plus the number of earphone units that they're going to sell, and then they have to price accordingly for profit. So something like the Thieaudio Mark II, it's going to do high volume. They're going to make a lot back on this one. This one, the V16, probably not going to make a lot of money back. It's at that 1,500, and it's also a lot of effort. There's 16 drivers per side that have to be fit. You have to fit them in, first of all, in a configuration that works, and then you have to tune them, work the crossovers, make them all work together, and that is extremely complicated and very time consuming in comparison with doing lesser driver earphones. So don't get it twisted in your head all the time that when a company is tiering up their pricing, a lot of companies do that, yes, but remember, more work, more effort, more thought goes into it generally, and then they account for the effort, profit, and how popular the earphone's going to be in accordance with the pricing. The packaging on this one's standard Thieaudio. I'm not even going to bring it out. It's standard from, if you've ever seen a Thieaudio earphone, it's a box with some foam. It has a cheap generic carry case in it. It's a good size carry case, but that's about it. And it's got two types of ear tips. It has these silicone plastic ones, and it has the Comply style foam ones. So that's all very unimpressive, but when you start to talk about what's impressive and what's not, under the category of impressive, it has to be the beautiful modular cable that Thieaudio has been switching to. I got in contact with Lillian last year, middle of last year, maybe earlier than that, and I told her, I was like, this is the best cable on the market. This came with a nice hick earphone. I told her, this is the best earphone cable on the market. Please find it and start selling it separate. And that's exactly what they did, but they have added their own modular cable system to rival the likes of Duna and Canera, and I think this is the best one on the market as well. It's super easy to use, super robust, super high quality. You can interchange this end with a 3.5mm standard, 2.5mm balanced, or 4.4mm balanced jacks as well. It's metal with the carbon finish, corded cable, which I usually don't like, but it works so well on this. Cable splitter on it there with metal and carbon fitting the theme, and then a little metal cable cinch on it as well. The ear guides are fairly long, and this brings me into an area where it's my only real gripe with the earphone, is that the cable is designed to be used with a recessed socket. So you see this little black piece protrusion in here. This is actually designed to be going into, for example, this is a Thieaudio S8Z, and you can see that this is a recessed connector, and you can see if I push this correctly, it disappears inside the recess. Now with this one, what you get is that it actually sits out flush, and to me that just looks a little bit weird. I would prefer to see the metal come all the way down to the earphone housing itself. Now the reason I'm not a big fan generally of flush mounted, I'm going to stand up so I can watch the monitor. This is a flush mounted earphone. And the problem with flush mounted earphones for me has always been the corrosion. So people have always asked me what I talk about and why I bash on 2 pins. Well, I bash on 2 pins with a flush mount because you can see this is my custom earphones. And if I grab the other one, you can probably see it in this one as well. See it better on this one actually. See this? The green here is actually corrosion because it sits absolutely flush, and when you do insert it in, you get a little bit of moisture. See where the connectors are actually exposed? Your sweat can get on that, salt dries up, and it can corrode the earphones. And as most people know, corrosion can travel down metal and actually screw up your earphones right proper and good. Now, apart from that, these are stunning earphones. The faceplate designs of Thieaudio's recently have just been gorgeous, and this is probably the best looking of the lot of them. It does not do justice on camera right now. I'm trying to hold it at the right angle, but it is gorgeous. It's got depth, it's got that copper, it's got a little pearlescent metal nozzle, so if you drop it, it's not going to crack on the acrylic. And it's just very, very well made. Now, if I pick up the Thieaudio Monarch Mark II, you can see that these are, the Divinity are significantly bigger. These are big, big earphones. The Monarch are big. The V16 are probably double the size and thickness. Now, what that I did actually find was the amount of drivers on the inside on the V16 combined with the size of the shell made them excellent isolators, absolutely fantastic isolators, but they are going to be a problem for people with anything below medium-sized ears. I have medium ears, and I found it was just about on the right size for me. Anything smaller in ear size and you're going to be having problems. Now, let's get into sound, because again, I'm not trying to make this a super long video. The sound of the V16 Divinity is not as good as I was hoping for. My most listened to earphone, despite me thinking that the Monarch Mark II are the best earphones on the market right now. I say that because they fall into a category with the Sony IERs, the UM Mest, etc., but these cost significantly less, but they punch with those other earphones. The most listened to earphone actually for me right now is an all balanced armature earphone. It's the Kinera Skuld. I love this earphone. I think this punches so far above its weight. It's absolutely fantastic. It's airy. It's a little bit warm. It's got good bass. It just sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's one of the best looking earphones ever made. Now, the V16 Divinity has tons of detail. Exceptional amounts of detail when you isolate and you look at the specifics of it. You have fantastic detail coming out of it. The problem for me was that it wasn't presented in an airy enough, open enough way, and it sounded kind of congested. It sounded like there was a lot of detail, a lot of information coming out, but it was very, very closely spaced together. And for me, that impacted my sort of the way I listen. The way I listen is I want airy, I want open, I want a little bit of warmth, I want intimacy, I want a little bit of bass punch, and these definitely have bass punch. They have a extended bass in the tuning, but it doesn't have that realism again of like something like the Thieaudio Monarch Mark II, which has the dynamic driver inside it, and it can actually move large volumes of air and better recreate the decay and the fall off of the mid bass, for example. And this is very technical bass. This is like this, you know, it's hitting you with the expression of this is what bass sounds like. This is what bass sounds like. Whereas this one's just going bam, 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 like just throwing it into your ears. Terrible description, but there you go. The mid-range was super detailed again, super detailed, but that's where it started to fall over itself. It was super linear from the low end of the mid-range to the high end of the mid-range. It all sounded there and then pushed forward into your ears. And it was the prominence of that mid-range that was a little bit overwhelming because there was so much detail in it, and I was finding it hard to hear certain passages. Like I was listening to Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze, and it was just, it sounded a little bit too much coming out of every angle. The prominence in the upper mid-range with female vocals, for example, sounded absolutely fantastic and engaging when it was just the vocalist singing. But when you threw into something more complicated like Adele tracks or something where you've got a symphony orchestra playing in the background, you're hit with that overwhelming, like, boom, there's a lot coming at me here and I don't know which direction to look at for it. Going into the highs as well, the highs were a kind of funny presentation. It was bright but not sibilant, but it didn't lead to that overall airiness. Again, I think that overabundance and lack of spacing overall, even the perception that treble can give, where treble can create artificial soundstage, it just wasn't able to push through that. Even with the brightness, there wasn't enough air in the treble to recreate that. Do I think they're $1,000 set of earphones? Yes, absolutely. They're detail monsters. They're certainly they're unique in a sort of standard form. They're more what I would expect from a balanced armature earphone, whereas something like the Canera Skald are exceptional for a balanced armature earphone. But the big issue here is that I really think ESTs and tribrid earphones are really starting to run away with this market. I know the technicalities of a lot of these companies, 64 Audio and stuff like that, are throwing a lot of drivers as a solution. But as somebody who listens to really enjoy music, like I care less and less about the quality, the technical ability, as opposed to the overall sound nowadays. When I was younger, I was all about the technicalities and this, but earphones have risen to such a point that, you know, yeah, you might get something that has 99.99% perfection in technicalities, but if it's not got that intimacy or the tuning is so much more important now, and Thieaudio are masters at tuning, and they created the Thieaudio Monarch Mark II, and I just think that that's such a hard earphone to beat. Other ones in that range, Mest, I would take the Mest over the V16. I would take the Sony IER. I would take the Campfire Audio Dorado 2020, Solaris 2020. Getting round about the $1,000 thing, you know, these exist, these are real, and they punch way above their weight, the Thieaudio Monarch Mark II. So that's kind of the market that you're living in. Again, this isn't Thieaudio saying that this is their flagship and the flagship is a flop or something like that. It's just that they're taking into account the amount of effort, the amount of work, the amount of sales that are going to be conducted by an earphone like this. Because tribrids are hot, they know they're going to sell more tribrids than they're going to sell more standard balanced armatures. I think the pricing is more akin to that. I think Thieaudio didn't realise that they had such a a monster on their hands when they created the Monarch Mark II, and that's sort of thrown the whole market up in the air. It's definitely scaring a lot of companies that Thieaudio are able to make such a wonderful earphone as the Thieaudio Mark II. I don't know about the availability of it, but yeah, that's where I stand with the V16 Divinity. Absolutely fantastic earphone. If the Monarch Mark II didn't exist, maybe it would be a different story. I just think this is such a good earphone, and I just feel that the slight congestion was a little bit too much for me, even though the detail was very impressive. So that's it for another review, guys. I've kept this one down to 15 minutes. Over the course of the year, let's try and get them under 10 minutes, but keep the same amount of information going. It's really good to be back. Thank you for all the messages everybody sent me, wondering what had happened. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I'm going to keep pumping out the reviews as fast and furious as possible. So stay tuned for that. Multiple reviews a week. And I'll see you on the next video, which should be the ME800.